Hello everyone, so welcome to episode 2 of the S&C Shite talk. Thank you to everyone who tuned into episode 1. All the support is very, very, very greatly appreciated, so thanks everyone. So this week's topic is the GAA off-season / pre-season conditioning. I suppose it's fairly topical at the minute with everything that's going on and all the unknowns for the season ahead. But so we're just gonna kind of ramble about that for a while and see what happens. But so there is a lot of unknowns. I suppose nobody knows when the season is going to start. So it's about how best someone is going to plan, what to avoid, what to include, and so we'll get cracking, I suppose. So you've done a good few posts, Adam, on the famous 5Ks.
Yeah.
Do you want to just talk about your thoughts on that first, and we'll take it from there?
I suppose the first one that we went through that I posted about was the game demands of, I think it was based off more or less inter-county GAA players. So I suppose if anyone is a GAA player, if we aim to replicate what the elite do in our sport, we're probably onto a decent path there. Like everyone's aiming to be the best, so if we base our training off them, then there's no real harm in it. And obviously that's going to change, because everyone's not at the same level as a GAA player or an inter-county GAA player. So that's, I think, where the correct program might come into it. But yeah, when it comes to the 5Ks, I don't know if we have a bit of a conflicting opinion on this or not.
We do and we don't.
I think I'm in the court of, if you're looking for the best bang for your buck and getting as much out of it as you can, not to do a 5K or 10K. I do see the other part of it though, especially when we don't know when the season's going to start. We don't know when we're going to kick off. I understand players getting frustrated with a running program, not knowing when the end is in sight. So I understand if getting out to do a 5 or 10K run is the only run, and if it's the only run that they'll do to get them to do something, I'm kind of in the court of, go ahead and do that. If that's what you enjoy and that's what you're going to adhere to more so in the running program, then by all means go ahead and do a 5 or 10K. If you're just a person who wants to do some running to actually be better for when they go back, I really don't see much of a point for a 5 or 10K. I suppose you'll explain. I'll explain my reasoning as you go along. But what do you think?
I suppose my biggest problem with the 5Ks and things is when every time someone goes to do them, it turns into a time trial. So they're trying to beat their last time, whereas I think that if they were to slow it down and not even go for a 5K, go under it, but try and keep their heart rate between the kind of 120, 150 mark, it's probably going to be really, really slow, but there's so many benefits to training at that intensity that you don't get at the higher intensities. Now I agree, I don't think it is the only type of training someone should do. So things like tempo runs, along with those longer steady state, not even steady state, low intensity runs, that's what I would, for early off season anyway, that's where I'd go. I know you talk a lot about the speeds don't match the game, but I think that you can't have everything constantly match the game.
Yeah, I agree.
So you need to. My thing would be you need to build up to the game and build the kind of physiological adaptations that will kind of build that base that will, it's the best way to put it, I suppose, allow you to maintain the speed of the game across whatever 60, 70 minutes. That would be my way of looking at them. But,
like I think the argument that's going around on social media is kind of you're either in one court or you're not.
Yeah,
and
that's it. Like, you can do both.
Yeah, like I think especially the posts that are going around saying that, you know, it's only high speed running and it's only say sprints and all to do. Like I understand not doing the 5Ks, but I think like we have to build that aerobic base. And like, you know, GAA is predominantly aerobically based.
Yeah.
I just feel that there's better ways of getting the same adaptations without doing a 5K. I think if, especially if you're starting off, like you're saying, we're starting off to build that aerobic base initially, I kind of like the idea of, say, introducing a mass run even there. I think especially if, because like, you know, with the mass runs, I like the way we're able to actually like, you know, make them a little bit more specific to where the person's at that moment in time. And then because they're not doing massive distances in one go, there might be, say, doing, depending where they are, we're doing 50 to 60 to 70 meters. I think their running technique doesn't go out the window. Whereas if they're doing a 5 or 10K, like, you know yourself, like you start off the first 2Ks with, like, you know, you're running well, the technique's going well, and then fatigue kicks in and whole hell breaks loose, and it's just kind of get finished this 5K or 5 to 10K. But I do understand that it's that you're still building that aerobic base. I think just for field sports, in my eyes, I think doing some form of mass running gets us a little bit closer, and it means we can not throw say like our technique completely out the window. I think it just bridges the gap between doing our tempo runs a little bit better. And then, as I said, like, you know, we can dictate that towards where the player is at that moment of time. So, you know, some person doing a mass run who's quite unfit will be challenged just as much as somebody who's actually, like, you know, in a decent enough shape. And we can increase that aerobic capacity quite a bit. And I know, like, you know, when we're going back to doing tempos, which is still aerobic, and then it goes back to doing sprints, I think regardless of what, if we're doing sprints, you know, I think our aerobic capacity is getting trained to some extent regardless of what we do, because that's what it's kind of starting off with. But we do have to build that base. I think that's kind of the argument that's going around over whether you're in a 5K or not a 5K. Court is kind of, you're kind of jumping over the fact that there has to be an aero base built there first. This is what it seems to be.
Yeah. Do you not think that using mass would be too high of an intensity to start off though?
I wouldn't. Like, mass is quite, I think it depends how much volume you put into it.
Yeah.
Like, I think you can start mass as low as you possibly want. Like, you know, if someone's running out of the mass, like say they're doing, if I'd start off someone doing a mass, it might be, say, 10 or 12 seconds of them running, and they're only covering, I'd start off my same mass of 15 seconds probably. And they're only running, you know, most people might be running like anywhere between 50 to 70 meters if they're really fucking fit, and they're running 110 or 120% of their mass. They could be running more. But you're still only running at small speed. You're still only running at in between 4 and 5 meters per second, really. Like,
yeah, but are the rest periods not going to be too short then?
Yeah, the rest periods
could be a massive heart rate spike.
Yeah,
and then like towards the end of your set, then is that technique and stuff not going to break down?
Yeah, I think that's where the programming of your volume will come into that quite well. Like, you know, I think you will have, I kind of seen people have who program mass, and it's nearly the same argument. Like the volume's gone from nothing to loads quite a lot, quite quickly.
Yeah.
I think if you find the happy medium and start with your volume, you know, low enough that your intensity is not going too high as you get to your last set, and like everything's going out the window, like technique wise.
Yeah.
But again, like it's now that's hard to program because we've been told you have 6 weeks, and then it's been told, oh no, it won't be extended. So like programming for that now it's hard. Like how do you how do you start? How do you know to start low enough to get those adaptations you're on about, but not be too low that when we do get back, we haven't fully got through the stage where we need to be to get there, to season like fitness. In an ideal world, you have loads of time to do this kind of shit. Like, I suppose now
we probably do have loads of time at the minute. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I think
it could end up being 12 weeks. You wouldn't know, like, would you?
No, like it's ridiculous. Like it's it's frustrating from a player point of view, and then from someone trying to put together a plan for those players, for that team. It's tough. Like I think regardless of what anyone does now, they're not going to get everything right. Like for this season, for starting the season, nothing's going to go right.
No, in fairness, no matter what this situation, you're never going to get everything right. Like so,
yeah. You know, like we can talk in an ideal setting all we like, but we don't exactly have that luxury.
Yeah. I definitely use tempo runs though, in some form.
Yeah.
Even starting out week 1.
Yeah.
I'd still be using 20 meter, or not 20 meter, 100 meter, 80 to 100 meters, 20 meter tempo run.
Yeah, like I think in an ideal world, I think I might start mass just to get somebody actually moving, and then I might progress the tempo runs after they've just gone through. I think I like the idea of mass just to get someone moving.
Yeah.
Because it's at a little bit of a lower speed. Now I wouldn't stick with it for too long. Like I think I like the idea just to get somebody to actually back out moving their legs again.
Yeah, I'd be the opposite. Then I use tempo runs first before mass, just so like with tempo runs, like your heart rate isn't going to be probably going. It shouldn't be going above 160 anyway. Whereas I think if you're going to go straight into using the mass, even 15, I think your heart rate, like technically, it should be reaching close enough to its max. No matter, I know you could say low volume, but even 5 minutes of 4 or 5 minutes of mass, you're still probably gonna get close enough to your max heart rate. Whereas if you do tempo runs, you can do a higher volume of work at a lower heart rate, which would make it a lot more aerobic. So you get obviously the adaptations of the high speed running, but you're also accumulating a lot of time in that kind of 120 to 150 heart rate zone, where a lot of the kind of aerobic adaptations. So I suppose that's probably something that we should probably talk about is the
actually.
Yeah. So I suppose the main kind of, so you're looking at kind of the adaptations to the heart. So things you could have your left ventricular eccentric hypertrophy. So what that basically is it allows your heart to expand more. So that would be able to, so it can take in more blood. So that when you go to the higher intensity work, so you go to your mass and your high intensity intervals, that will then develop the concentric hypertrophy. So we'll be able to push harder. So I think so that's why we do the aerobic stuff first and at the lower heart rate, and then move to the higher intensity stuff to, what am I trying to say? So the heart will be able to take in more blood, and then after the high intensity, it'll be able to push it around the body faster. and then it would so I don't know, that would be my idea there. And then there's other things, you know, there's I think there's so many adaptations you can get from working at a lower heart rate that will then benefit you a lot more to when you go into the harder running and the harder stuff, which when players are going to go back, like I'm not looking forward to it anyway for one. But you know, like agreed. Everyone, it is balls out running straight away, week one back. So that'll be my my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think when people do program mass, I think it's programmed too much too soon.
Yeah, I don't definitely.
I'm not. I know the whole idea of mass is, like, as you're saying, to try to really get their hurry up. I'm kind of looking at it the way of just getting someone moving as well, and just following the mass template is nice to get someone moving. And then as soon as I think someone's back moving, I agree. I'd go straight into tempos then.
Yeah,
straight in. I think I'd only really look to use mass for maybe 2 weeks just to get someone ideally moving. I wouldn't even go through the whole mass protocol of, 110, 120, 130. I wouldn't even bother going to that. I just go from just as the idea of getting someone to move and just getting them back, because they're not running as fast, like it's kind of slow, and it's just getting them used to moving again. And then I'd agree. I'd go straight into tempos then. That'll be my idea behind it too. It's just about getting, like, I think the more people understand about it, the better they'll have the concept of why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually my biggest issue with mass is that, I don't know, people use it without actually knowing what it is. Like everybody, like I've had people tell me they were doing mass runs. So just say 5 people told me, 5 of them were doing completely different things. So like I've had people say 400-meter runs were mass runs. Yeah, 15-second runs were mass runs. So I don't know, I actually don't use the term mass myself when programming. I use mass as a measure of intensity, but not as a training method, if you get me. So I'll never say to someone they're doing mass runs.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I say they're doing high intensity intervals or something, and then manipulate the intervals and rest periods to get what I want out of the training session. But I've a big issue with mass, the word mass.
Yeah, I completely get that. Like, I definitely think it's the way things are being explained to people, or like they don't like, and you don't expect people to understand what they're doing. Yeah. But I do think, like, from a coach's point of view, if they explain to people what's happening, like if you just give somebody a running program, like, yourself, before you knew any of this, you were given a running program, and said, fuck, I'm doing a running program. Whereas I think if you give someone an understanding of what they're doing and why they're doing it, they'll have a complete better understanding. Like if you even say, like, if you went through explaining that what our aerobic system does, how that affects GA, then what our anaerobic system does and what that does to affect GA, and then your PCR system, like how that affects GA, and understand why we're programming what we're programming the people. And as simply as you can put it to somebody who doesn't understand it, they'll have a better rationale for why they're doing what they're doing, and they won't be just looking at being like, oh fuck, I'm doing a running program, like what's this, like. I do think that communication is lost there quite a bit. I think things that might be just thrown to players and teams, and like that's when your buy-in kind of dies off. I think the first week everyone will buy in for the first week. You'll see lads like posting in group chats and posting they're getting out for the runs, but especially now, like when you don't know when you're going back, that buy-in is going to die off. Like
definitely, especially like when programs have like no like progression kind of plan or anything. So it's just like they get this whatever someone sends in a PDF to a WhatsApp group, and it's 10 minutes of 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off, and that's it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and they're just doing that from week one. Like week one is going to be horrific doing that. So they probably actually won't last.
No, like, and
so,
like,
you know.
like, and there's some running programs that I've seen like going around, or some people have talking about what they're doing, and you're kind of like, a lot of them have gone from 0 to 100 so quickly.
That's it.
And like, even from a player point of view of looking at people breaking down, like that breakdown, like the potential there for people to break down from going from 0 to 100 is massive. Like, especially when you have players who might not have access to a pitch. You haven't done that kind of stuff on the road, which could be a shitty road somewhere down the country. They could even be doing it on the pitch, which at the minute, well, even especially last week, the pitches are bogged. Like, so it's like, is that
off doing the road?
Yeah, like, is that their benefit? Like, it's more of a conditioning session for muscles there to actually try hold them through the session, as opposed to actually getting any adaptations.
It's being a strength session there.
Yeah, like, and that's the issue you have as well. So there's plenty of factors which aren't ideal.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's a case of how can we get people to do, or to even get some sort of structure to what they're doing is tough. Like, I think going through that study on the game-based speeds or the game-based distances and that kind of stuff, and like letting people see that and understand that might give them an understanding as how to go about stuff. Now, I don't mean that we're going to be able to exactly replicate what we do in the game, because we're not.
No, never.
And even in training, when we're back, we're still not replicating that. So I think even incorporating some form of session into players even in season, especially with sprinting, is going to be important. So even like, I think as you go back to training and you go back to doing even like in-house games or like small sided games where they're conditioned and like the pitch size is condensed, I think that limits players from even hitting top speeds and stuff as well.
Yeah, probably limits the amount of high speed running you can do as well.
Yeah, so I think there has to be a progression, whether that's off season to pre-season to even in season. Like, they're running, like, you know yourself, they're running stops after. As soon as as soon as evens get longer, they're running stops.
Yeah,
but to some extent, they're running stops.
Yeah, but, you know, a set of tempo runs at the end of the session will go a long way.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
100%.
Two 40-meter sprints at the start of a session, something like that.
Yeah, like all right. So how would you go around planning your tempo run sessions, or what's your idea behind your tempo run sessions?
Tempo runs. So I'd use, you know, not the usual enough kind of protocol for us to 80 to 100 meters, 70%. I would usually I start fairly low volume, so probably 3 sets of 4. Like, it sounds like it's not a lot. That's not a big session, but how many high speed meters is there in a GAA football game?
Hold on a second now. So roughly for the average player, like, this is not even going players or position specific, there's just roughly just about 8,900 meters. So 8.9k is your total distance covered in the game, and your high speed running is just over about 1.5k, and that's on average. From like, that differs massively from player to player.
Yeah. In session 1, like, it's 3 sets of 400 meter tempo runs. It's pretty easy session, I think, for anyone who go into it. But you're getting 1,200 meters of high speed running.
Yeah, I think
you're nearly at them game demands already, and I think that's why you really like the tempo runs, because you can you can build up massive amounts of high speed run in the weeks. Like, if you're doing 6 weeks, if you add 1 run to each set, so what would that end up being? That'd be 3 sets of 10, would it? I don't know. Yeah, just say you build up to 3 sets of 10.
Yeah, 3%.
Like, that's 3Ks for high speed running.
Yeah, which is more than
and it done in a progressed manner.
Yeah,
you know,
I think getting that concept across the players and especially managers is tough. so that your session doesn't have to be a balls out session.
Yeah, every session doesn't have to be.
No, and like
hard.
as long as we understand the demands of the game, if we surpass them in training, when it comes to the game, like the game should be okay. Like your fitness shouldn't be what's on your mind. Like you should know that everything that you have there is in the bank, and you can completely focus on what the task at hand, as opposed to having to worry about, fuck, am I going to last half an hour here? Like,
yeah, exactly.
But again,
I think the biggest thing with the tempo runs, if you're going in using with a team or a manager is going using them, is the kind of longer rest periods. So if you're covering 100 meters in 20 seconds and you have 40 seconds recovery, I don't know, like, trying to get that into someone's head that this is good and we don't need don't need to shorten the recovery is probably the hardest part.
Yeah, 100%.
There probably is a time.
Yeah, there's probably
there's a time to shorten the recovery, but it's not in week one. Like,
no, I think like further down the line you get there because you might have pressure from somewhere else to do it. But
yeah,
what's your thought? Throw something to you. When I was going through that game speed demands, I know when you talk about tempo runs, they're kind of like always looking to say maybe that's 70 to 100 meters like as our distance. Then I was kind of thinking, if the distances are so much different from players to players, is like, do we have much point in having every player doing 70 to 100 meters? Do we kind of, and I don't mean like make it really specific as in go and say only fullbacks, like do we group it as saying like, say every defender trains like a halfback and midfielders are trained like, midfielders, obviously they're going to run the most regardless.
Yeah.
And then forwards are trained like half. Like do we have to have everyone, I'd say, doing 100 meters? Like, okay, I understand having our midfielders doing 100 meters because, there's a high chance that they'll be doing 100 meters. Then you have the argument of, will you have defenders, like if their high speed running might not be as far as like their one run in particular might not be as far, they might not be covering 100 meters as on a constant basis. Would we shorten them and then gradually expose them to higher and higher speed running? Like I know it's 70%, but will we gradually, as they get better, do we increase their running to try get
increase the run, just the speed of each run? Like
that's another.
Yeah,
it's just a thought I've been playing with.
Worthwhile. Definitely a good point, a good question, but
like it's like, can we get?
I think implementing something like that, well, implementing in a team setting would be very difficult. If you're working with an individual, I suppose you definitely could. But I don't know. It's just
it's finding the right formula for that
I do think it would work, but I don't know how I would go about doing it, to be honest.
Yeah, like I think if you're doing that in team settings, like do you group,
it's just messy.
Yeah, like that's why I definitely think if you just went, say for example, you were doing a team session, you might just have 3 groups, like no more than 3 groups, just have 3 groups, like defenders, midfielders, forwards.
Yeah.
All forwards train the same because the forwards and defenders will interlink. So like a full forward plays a half forward, a half back, or plays a full back, and so on. So you may as well train as the full back may as well train as the half back who's running the most distance because they can find themselves in that position. So then you have the argument now of every player will play everywhere. So do you just
that's the thing, isn't it?
So do you just train like your midfielder who's covering the most ground? But I don't know. Then again, like you have sometimes like you might have that big donkey midfielder who doesn't cover his ground as quickly. So
he'll do his tempo runs between the 265s.
Yeah, like is there a point of him training? Like how do you make that player specific? Then is the question. I suppose for an individual, it's handy. Like not that handy. It's a lot handier for an individual. We can just assume what the top speed should be in the range of, and assume what 70% of that is, and then that dictates our time to cover said distance. Like, it's a case of like in a team scenario, do we go to the effort of changing it from defenders to midfielders to forwards? Or do we just go well together? Like, and I suppose that's going to dictate, or that's going to depend on what your manager's approach is. You know, are you given that luxury to do that?
Yeah. So one thing you could do with that is you could change it to kind of, so half forward, half backs are straight line, 100. So that kind of middle third there, the usual players will be there. Whereas your full back line and full forward line could do, say, 50 out and back.
Yeah, or you're adding in.
That'd be more kind of slightly more specific to.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
You could even well include there, as in for the full backs and full forwards, the start of those tempos are, you've got zigzag involvements. You've got.
Yeah, that's it.
You've got semicircle involvements, and then you're gone, or like some sort of variation of that.
Yeah.
But then it's a case of, does that fullback ever plays a halfback, and then is he missing out in the halfback allocations?
I think, yeah.
Or is it a case of, do you just have, as I was saying, the three groups, and you could easily have them going side by side, in your 3/3 of the pitch, and your distances of all of them are just slightly altered, and then does everyone progress? If, as we're gradually doing distance and we're gradually getting to, you know, quite high speed running, do we then gradually progress everybody to doing, everybody does some form of zigzags and everybody just does some form of half circles? Because, you know, realistically, most players are doing that in game to some extent. So it's, but then you're getting really specific. You're trying to,
you're getting very, very specific then, aren't you? And
you're trying to get every factor.
Are they getting those things in their small sided games anyway?
Yeah.
You know, do we just need to do what they're not getting from that?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It is. I suppose there's so many things that you could do.
Yeah.
You don't really need to tie yourself to one method of it.
Yeah, and like, you know, it's always a case of, if something happens and it goes tits up, then you know what, let's not do that next time.
Yeah, you'll be told not to do it.
Like then again, you could do that with another team and it could work absolutely beautifully. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think it depends who you're working with and what team setting you get as to how it goes. I think as well, I'd probably get people sprinting as soon as I could too.
Oh yeah, sprint from week one. What kind of way do you progress your sprint sessions? Or
see, like that's the other one, because, you know, like I view sprint sessions as what you're really trying to do is work on improving your maximum velocity as much as you can. Like in GAA, speed is the defining factor in nearly everything. Regardless of whether you've got somebody who has his fitness levels in general are poor, if he's quick, like
he's getting away with he'll get away with not being as fit.
So I think then getting across your rest times when it comes to sprint sessions to people is, even like we're talking about, like getting rest times of 40 seconds in tempo runs to people is tough.
Yeah, like 3 minutes in a sprint.
Yeah, like I'm kind of trying to work off that rule of, for every 10 meters you sprint, you're taking
you're
taking a 1 minute rest.
Yeah.
So you're getting people to do even a 30 meter sprint, and you're talking about a 3 minute rest. Like.
Yeah, and that's it. And you might only do 4 sprints in a session.
Yeah,
like how is this? How is this my session?
I think it's trying to get the idea across to someone that this isn't a session where we're working on you getting really fit and you're going to feel absolutely back by the end of it. Like, this is a session where our real aim is to increase your maximum speed. Like, if your maximum speed can get as close as we possibly can to really, really fucking quick, you're flying. Like you get your maximum speed up to being really quick. You get your high speed running through tempos as close as we can get to that without going too far above 70% that we're like getting really fatigued.
Yeah, but if you look at it that way, if you're improving your maximum speed, so the speed of your tempos are going to improve. So your speed at 70% is going to be faster. So it's nearly working out as, I don't know, fitness training.
Yeah,
In a kind of a different sense, I suppose.
Like it's covering all bases. You're getting everything nearly in there. I suppose like the best way like I've tried to use to describe to people of why.
Losing you there.
Oh, sorry. You all good?
No, yeah, you're back.
I think the way I've gone about explaining the benefit of people to do max speed sprinting is if like we have a guy say you're a cornerback, say you're a halfback marking a half forward, you're really fast, he's really fit, you know you're not as fit as him, you know he's probably going to outlast you throughout the game, but that first ball you go to, ideally you're going to win that because you're faster. Like as you were saying there, if your max speed is really fast, your sub max speed is also getting faster. So like if you're fatiguing at a quicker rate than he is, your speed is still going to be slightly above him. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like the worst case scenario happens is that you get to the same level of speed because he hasn't fatigued as quickly as you have. You fatigued to his level. So now it's a 50-50. And you're hoping that that's maybe halfway through the second half.
Exactly.
At that stage, you can come off and just fresh out.
That's it, and you've done your job.
Yeah. So like you don't have to be madly fit, but if you're really quick, you're flying.
Yeah, it's a big advantage. It's coming from someone who's incredibly slow.
Like you know yourself, like you go to play junior football, and you have lads showing up out of everywhere who haven't played all year, and the first person you want in your team is the lad who played soccer, who's really fast and played as a winger. Like he's the first person you want playing corner forward or wing forward. You know he won't last the whole game. He's only played soccer like recreationally, like, but you know like for the first half he's probably going to absolutely roast your man because he's fast.
Yeah.
And that's your pure example there. Like you probably have him up against a guy who's played in your senior team, who's training your senior team, who's flying fit. Like he's just not getting the senior team, but he's playing halfback for you guys because he's absolutely flying.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this dude comes up against him who's played soccer, but who's really fast and makes absolute mince of him in the first half because he's fast and because he's able to get to balls quicker. And I think that's, if you can sell it to people that way of like, you don't have to be fit, but if you're fast, we can improve your speed, but we can work on your fitness with that. You can be fit and you can be really fast. I think that's kind of what way I've gone to look at it. And you know, most people have bought into it so far. You're going to have people who don't, but I think that's where it comes back to, if we can explain it to people so they understand the benefit and the rationale behind it, it's hopefully where it'll work.
Yeah.
Again,
I think it's easy enough to explain it to the individual.
Yeah.
You know, but I think if you're working with a team and you've a freaking, you know, a manager down your back every session wondering why there's so much standing around.
Yeah, like, and that's
when it gets tricky, like, but
like especially if you've got old school managers who just think every session has to be a slog.
Yeah.
That's
like, a lot of them, unfortunately.
Sometimes the best sessions are the ones that you aren't slogging in.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think even when it approaches, say your mid-season, you're approaching end season, like as I was saying, all the running's out the window there. Like I've been assumed, we have this in the bank, like all the run is done, we have this there to look back on, and then it's a case of we're just doing small-sided games, and realistically, in those small-sided games, nobody is getting to max speed. So even you're never training max speed. So I think even at that stage, your sprint training still has to be there regardless.
Yeah, you just need to top it up, really. Like, you know, you don't need to even do that much with during the season. Even like two 40-meter sprints, you're gonna
you're talking about
more than enough.
Yeah, like I was talking about, like, what speed's the hardest to get and the quickest to lose. So it's something like you start to lose speed after 5 days of non-training, isn't it?
Something like that, yeah, 4 or 5 days or something.
So like you could literally have your team doing a sprint session every 4 days.
Yeah.
Like every 5 days, and like it's only, as you said, it could be only a small session. you're just keeping on top of things, so you're never losing
that's
that
it.
what you had. Like, again, that's just, it's getting them in.
From an injury point of view as well, like, you know,
Yeah,
if you don't, like, if you're not doing any high speed, like maximum velocity sprints, and the one time you have to do it in the game,
yeah,
and
like,
just hamstring gone straight away.
Like, the biggest factor in hamstring injuries is when they happen in high speed running. Like, that's one of the top reasons for, or that's one of the top times when hamstring injuries occur. People trying to hit max speed, running, like, or doing high speed running. So, like, I think especially even when they're returning from hamstring rehab, exposing them to high speed running is one of the crucial elements of your return to play or your return to training kind of thing. Like, but that can all be like you can try to prevent that by just exposing them to high speed running, like in their sessions.
Yeah.
But like, it's massively, like, it's not done enough, like, at all.
No, definitely not. But, so what would one of your sprint sessions look like week one of off season?
Like, I probably have guys just doing short sessions at the minute. Like, our short sessions, I've only, maybe 10, 20, 30 meters just to get them back actually doing that movement. Like, you might only do, maybe 2 to 4 sprints of each of them. Again, it depends what their times, like, because obviously when you hit 30 meters, you've got that massive time delay. So I think I have had lads who are doing, I think like the first week I probably had them doing 10 meters, then 20 meters, then 30 meters. Then, after like the week one, we can kind of get rid of 10 meters and go, can we go 20, 30, 40? I don't know if I get them to go much more than that.
Yeah, how far do you take it?
Yeah, like, because it's going to get to the stage where you're going far, but like, you're not running at max speed anymore.
That's it, yeah.
Like, you've hit max speed. Like, from any sprinter, like, you watch Usain Bolt run and he hits max speed at a certain time, and then it's just, can I cruise and can I maintain the speed? He's not constantly getting faster towards 100 meters. Like, he's accelerating out of the blocks, hitting top speed, and then it's, can I maintain? So it's, when we're programming that for our athletes, it's, what's our point where we say, right, once you get past this point, we're probably looking at you not actually getting any faster. So is there much point in us getting you to do that?
Yeah. Are you just doing it for the sake of doing it?
Yeah. So I think at the minute I've probably gone to about 30 to 40 has been my max.
Yeah, I'd be the same. 40 meters is usually the max I'd go to.
Yeah. Then it's case, I think I've got like when do we work acceleration? Like, do we add in them 5-10 meters at the start just so we can get some acceleration work in? Will our sprints just account for acceleration? Stuff. That's I don't know what way we can go with that one. Like,
yeah, I've kind of done it a couple of different ways before. Like, I've done it like you, where I just increase the distance of each sprint in each session. But I've done other times then. So if you're doing 2 sprint sessions a week, one would be more acceleration focused, and the other one would be max velocity.
Yeah, that's.
So acceleration, then you probably start off again, you're 10 meters. And then for max velocity, what I do starting off, so it might be like a 60 meter, it'd be like a 60 meter build up, if you get me. So you're kind of going through the gears and you're touching off max velocity as you get to maybe 55 meters ish.
They're kind of like a fly kind of one. Like,
it's like a fly, but it's probably longer than a fly.
Yeah.
So you're only touching that then. So I'd probably go 60 meters and then maybe increase that to 80 meters.
Yeah.
So they're just increasing the amount of time they're spending at max velocity.
Yeah.
But I don't know which one I prefer yet, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's.
I think trying to explain that to people is hard. That one.
Yeah.
To build it slowly, you don't have to go flat out from the start. It suits some people, it doesn't suit others.
Agreed, definitely. Yeah, that's like, and how you integrate that into someone's plan that's the beauty of trying to get it in there. Like,
Yeah,
it's fine working with an individual. Like you can go to things with individuals. Mainly they've come to you for the help, so like they're going to buy in regardless.
they're going to listen to you. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
It's the question of how you get into a sports team. How do you get everyone to buy in? Now, like, and realistically, you're not going to get everyone to buy in. Like, but if you get 60% to buy in, you're like, that's fairly fucking good going. I think, but the further we can get the teams to move away from that slogan at the start of the preseason, the better. I think.
Definitely, I think focusing, trying to shift the focus back to speed rather than.
Yeah, like at the start of the season, I think everyone has it there that it has to be a slog. Like, whereas if you spent the start of the season doing your sprints and doing your ball skills, you're going to have a team in a much better.
Exactly, yeah.
Much better position.
Definitely.
Like you're going to have a team coming into the preseason games who are hopefully kind of quick and who have good ball skills, as opposed to a team who can, we can run for the whole 60, 70 minutes. Grand, it's all well and good, but you're really fucking slow and your ball skills are a bit all over the place.
Yeah. It's true, isn't it?
But it's that idea of being like, we have mileage in the tank, we've gone through this. And I think coaches kind of use it as a way of saying we've built this like mental toughness.
But that's just what is mental toughness though? how do you describe that?
Like that's like, just well, like you'd have a guy who's doing his slogging, right? You have one guy out absolutely flying, like he's tearing shit up, and he probably feels class, right? Like, so mental toughness or mental like thing in his head is probably through the roof. Being like, I'm after confident this, I'm flying. You have your man who's Paddy last, who is about 3 laps behind everybody, who's slogging through, barely getting one foot in front of the other. Like where's his mental toughness?
Exactly,
if anything, his confidence and everything is absolutely shot. Like he knows he's last. He knows he's about 5 minutes behind everybody else. His hips are probably killing him because it's probably in a shitty pitch. He's barely putting one foot in front of the other. Running mechanics gone out the window, and chap's in agony, and his mental state is all over the place because he knows he's useless. He's a guy who's
he's at the back.
Guy who's slow. Like so, how do you, where is his mental toughness?
Yeah, but is mental toughness is that mental toughness? Is it being able to put yourself through pain, or is it being able to make the right decision at an important moment in a game?
Exactly.
Is that mental toughness,
how do you define that? How does anybody have the same mental toughness as somebody else? Like, how do I, that like I have the same mental toughness you have? Like what do I define mine as, and what do you define yours as?
Yeah. So I think that it's just a cop out, really, isn't it? It's just
like it's like a coach's way of being like, I have to make my team feel tired, and like we worked hard for preseason.
That's it. Yeah. They're just trying to justify it to themselves, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I think the best thing is, the funniest thing I find is when, so you'll do a horrific preseason and, just every session is a slog, or every session is hard as you can. Then first round of the league, you lose and you're not fit enough.
Like at the end of the day, if you're doing your slogging session, like you've taken all the enjoyment out of it. Like, you know, as soon as you go back and preseason's over, the sun's out, the pitch is hardened up, everybody's in a better mood because they know the run's not there and they know they're actually going to play football.
Exactly, yeah.
So your performances are probably improving because the player enjoyment and fulfillment is probably increased. So why not get that from the start of the season? Like, why not make them or have them playing football? Like, they want to play football and do like their sprints. Like, you're trying to do. I'm definitely in this court of like, can we get as much benefit as we can out of doing as little as possible? As little as possible,
yeah.
Like doing a sprint session,
or not even as little as possible. The least taxing on the body.
Yeah. Like, if I can get myself in as bad shape as I can, by doing as little as I possibly have to do to get there.
Exactly, yeah.
And not putting myself through pain, I'm going to go and do it. Like.
Yeah, exactly. But Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, but what else? I was going to say something there. I can't remember. What was it? Oh yeah. Like most of the time, teams come out of preseason like dead.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they're coming into the league and they're like they haven't had the chance to. I suppose they haven't had the chance to actually adapt yet.
Yeah.
So the adaptations haven't actually happened because they've been training so hard. They haven't had that chance to for the actual adaptations that the training was supposed to.
Yeah, then
induce.
actually occur and
they didn't occur until they mightn't occur for another 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, and
at the same
just
time,
making it through that. You see that a lot of times, like they'll be just dated to start the league, and as the league gradually goes on, they start coming together and they'll be flying.
Yeah.
Like, I think that might have happened to a lot of teams last year, because, you know, they were just back and say championship is in 6 weeks, so it was just 6 weeks of torture, really, I suppose. And that teams, you were going into the first round of the championship just wrecked.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're probably overtrained, but like I suppose it's not that overtraining is a bad thing, but overreaching, I suppose, isn't a bad thing once you have the time after it.
Yeah, it's like you're kind of nearly over. You're kind of overreached. You're kind of like overreached, but like underprepared. Like
kind of.
Like the body's getting there, but it hasn't got the chance to actually like make use of the adaptations to be ready for that what it wants to do. Like
that's it. Like volume and intensity, I suppose, on a graph would have kind of went up, but it would have needed to drop a bit.
Yeah.
For maybe 2 or 3 weeks before it.
Yeah.
For the block before to actually the adaptations to take place.
It's like the same we're saying. Like,
year,
like I just saying, like, we're constantly, you know, increasing, and like we probably got to the game stage at where we just can't go anymore, and we're literally plateauing. Like you go into the gym, like we have a deload week because of the fact that we're loading. The body has to have that chance to recover, otherwise it's going to break down. And that's what happens when you get like from preseason to the game. All of a sudden you get to the game, first game, all of a sudden your midfielder might pull up and you're like, what should we doing all that work on the pitch? Like how's he pulled up? Like,
yeah,
and exactly. Like, well, you can't just keep constantly reaching and never expect someone to break down. If you keep pushing, like give them the chance to, like, the body to completely recover from nervous system to musculature system to everything, you're never gonna like actually hit the benefit of that. Like, so I think that's another thing that has to be considered quite a bit. Like,
yeah, definitely. I suppose it just goes back to you need to stress the body, allow the body to recover, and then the body will adapt.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, I think once, I suppose most people don't understand that, I suppose, or
and I think it's us trying to educate them.
Yeah,
it's getting there. It's obviously a little bit harder, but as long as we can get things to improve, it'll be better. But it's getting that improvement that's hard. And then again, like, it's the same thing. You don't want to go the opposite scale and people go doing pre-season where it's a really slow, slog, to also go into the other side of it where they're going too far one way and they constantly want to try to do max sprints, and they're giving you, like, say, 2 or 3 sets of 10 by 100 meters, and you're still pulling up like and there is that extreme too, like, or they're coming back first week and it's all of a sudden it's going to go right. We're going to do testing. We're going to do a max like test of, can you do, it's like a fucking stupid bleep test or yo-yo test. First session back, and you're expecting players to push themselves to the max when they haven't been training.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and that is happening too. Like, and it's like, right, you have two ends of us. Like, you have two complete different ends of the spectrum there. Like,
yeah.
So
I suppose it's just trying to be somewhere in the middle. And
so I suppose, like, what someone can take away from this, if they're trading it, it's like what we can. They can add in, if they add in the tempo runs and sprint sessions, I think they'd be in a fairly good place.
Yeah, I think even if you were to do nothing other than that, you'd probably be pretty okay.
Yeah.
I think even if someone wanted to do the longer runs, they're okay too. If you're doing them alongside the higher speed stuff, but not to have every single run to be a 5K time trial.
Like,
whereas it's the same as anything. You can build volume over time. So if you start week 1, you do a 20-minute run, nice, easy, slow jog, and you can build that up to a 40-minute run or whatever, nice, easy, and slow. But you're not constantly putting the body under unbelievable amounts of pressure. Like, it's not constantly stressed. It's not constantly in a state of stress when you're training.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I suppose just don't do 5K time trials every week, basically.
And if you want to do as little as you possibly can, just do your sprint sessions.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? But I think definitely does get the sprints in.
Yeah.
And just do them smart. Just train smart, I suppose.
I suppose if they have any questions, like to get in touch.
Get in touch.
Like either
we don't charge much.
This is kind of so get in touch if you have questions.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you don't have questions, just go sprint.
Yeah.
That can be your take-home message for this.
Take 1 minute rest for every 10-meter sprint.
Yeah.
And you'll be in a pretty good place come back, to be honest.
And not every session has to be a slog.
Exactly. And not every session has to be high intensity.
Yeah. So just go sprint and you'll be happy out.
Yeah. Just sprint.
All right. I think that we can wrap it up for that week. So thanks for watching.
2 rabbit holes, but sure, look.
Yeah, look, that's going to be a constant theme, I think it is.
Yeah.
So look, thanks for tuning in for week 2. We'll see you next week, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
When I sit alone, come get a little known, but I need more than myself this time. Step from the road to the sea to the sky, and I do believe that we rely on. When I lay it on, come get to play it on, all my life to sacrifice. Hey, oh, listen what I say, oh, I got your hey, oh, now listen what I say, oh, when will I know that I really can go to the well once more? Time to decide on when it's killing me. When will I really see all that I need to look inside? Come to believe that I better not leave before I get my chance to ride. When it's killing me, what do I really need? All that I need to look inside. Hey, oh, listen what I say, oh, come back and hey, oh, look at what I say, oh. The more I see, the less I know, the more I like to let it go. Hey, oh. When I lay it on, come get to play it on. All my life to sacrifice. Hey, oh, listen what I say, oh. I got your hey, oh, listen what I say, oh. The more I see, the less I know.